Hello, and welcome back to the building room, where today I have to do some brick sorting. And it's not my favorite job, but it has to be done so that I can put together amazing builds. And so I have a whole bunch of bricks that I bought in bulk, and they all got cleaned and washed, and they're ready for their sorting. Now, there's some pieces that I can already spot in here that are not the Lego brand, and even though they're cute, they are going into the bin of shame because I only put official Lego bricks into my organization. So I'm going to just kind of go over how I do this, kind of my process that I found to be fastest, and we'll see if we can make some headway on this huge bag of bricks. Now, normally before I wash them, I usually go through and I pull out all of the pieces that aren't the Lego brand, but this time I just chucked everything in and washed it. It was just going to be a little bit easier. So I'll have a whole bunch of pieces that I will have to pull out, but that's okay. They're actually pretty easy to spot. We have found that the colors are just slightly off. You can almost tell right away from the colors if you work with enough of the Lego bricks that, nope, that's not a color that Lego makes. And so that's one easy way to spot it. And then of course, the figures are pretty easy too, the minifigs, because they usually are pretty different. So we have a torso and then a torso here, and you can pretty quickly tell. I'm not sure what this is. I'm not seeing the Mega Bloks brand on it, but it could be that. I'm not completely sure. So the first thing that I do when I dump a pile out is I do a very quick sort. I found that if you try to have this huge pile and then just start separating it out piece by piece, which is how my organization is done. It is not done by color, it is done by piece, and then the colors are kind of mixed within that bucket. I like it and I don't like it for that way, because then when I'm looking for a particular color, it's difficult, but I do not have the room to be able to separate by piece and then by color, which would be my dream. Maybe eventually if I can expand this room, then maybe I could do that. But at the moment, it is just organized by piece, and then the colors are all dumped in. So the first thing that I do is I go through and I pull out what I would consider to be basic building blocks. So, you know, your standard bricks, 1 high. Sometimes I'll put in taller ones of the kind of the standard bricks, but for the most part, I literally just go through and I pull out everything that I see that is kind of a standard brick, and I push it to the side. Usually I pull out the 1 wide and the 2 wide in this because they're pretty easy to separate after that. The idea behind this is to get the quickest sort that I can done so that I'm not spending forever going through the pieces. Once I have that done, I go back through the same pile and I pull out all of the basic flat pieces. I don't usually pull out ones that have any modification to them. Sometimes I will, like this little guy that has the studs on the front. He's pretty easy to pick out. But like I said, I want when I go back through that pile that I've pulled out again, for it to just be a super fast then sort. And that's what I have found to be the fastest method to do it. You want to keep moving. You want your eyes to be able to very quickly pick out the differences. So once I'm done with the 1 high and the flat kind of standard bricks, then I would look at the situation again and I would pull out the next thing that usually pops out very quickly to my eye, because every pile you have is going to be slightly different. So in this pile, I see a whole lot of wheels, and anything big that you can get out does help. It gets you down to those small kind of annoying pieces, and I say annoying only because it is difficult to then sort them because they end up having so many different styles. It's kind of crazy how many different tiny pieces there are when you actually start having to sort them out and deal with them. So I'll pull out all of the wheels, and then I would go through and I would say, okay, what is the next thing that pops out to me? So maybe it's these kind of funny little pieces that have the holes that you can put all the Technic stuff in, or maybe it's, you know, the taller ones, so more like a standard brick but kind of taller. And I just keep going like that, just constantly pulling out and sorting through and really getting down to kind of this very special technical pieces. You can pull out plants, you can pull out obviously anything that you see that doesn't belong, and slopes are another great one that can then be pulled out and put into a separate pile. Now, sometimes if I'm feeling very ambitious, I will do 2 piles at the same time. So if I have my one high standard pieces and then my flat standard pieces, I can usually multitask enough to do that and just have one on each side and just be kind of cruising through those and get through them pretty quickly. I also have a tendency to pull out any round piece. Wheels I'll pull out separate, but if I have any other kind of round pieces that pop out to me, I'll make like a round pile because that's another kind of big section. I just try to envision what's going to have a big pile that then can be broken down easier. So it goes pretty quickly this way for me. It slows down a little bit when then you have to break down the small pile that you made, and break it up even more. But it makes me feel like I'm accomplishing something. It makes me feel like I can constantly be moving and I'm never kind of stuck and getting discouraged. So it's, break it down into small little tasks, and then the small little tasks become manageable. I found that it is best to break it up, to say, okay, I'm going to work on, this Tupperware size or something, and I'm just going to work on that. If I have a really big pile like this huge bag, I'll do those sorts, and then I'll actually find a small Tupperware and put in each of those sections that I've done to then work on another day. And I just kind of chip away at it, and eventually we get there and we have more bricks to be able to build with. I do struggle with one little thing when I'm doing this, and that is the quality of the bricks. Do you keep ones that are damaged in any way, or do you go ahead and try to retire those in some way? Now, this little crate right here is very yellowed, and it kind of depends on where you get it from and how well they took care of their bricks. This one obviously had a lot of play time with it, and maybe even a lot of time outside. And you can really tell the kids who really put the playtime in, indoors or outdoors, when you usually pick up the bricks. If you get it from an adult collector, then you find that they're in much better shape. Does this guy deserve a second chance, or maybe should he be retired in some way? And that's a difficult one, because normally it would be like, well, you're not going to put something in that's that yellowed or something. But the truth of it is that everything's not perfect in real life. And so you can kind of give age and texture and character to your build if you have something in there that's kind of looked a little worn. In this instance, if you were building a farm or something, well, I mean, baskets and bushels and they take a lot of wear and tear on a farm, and so that actually might fit in perfectly. So usually I will give them a second chance. Another thing that I started doing a while ago was I actually pull out anything with a print or a sticker on it. For 2 reasons. One, I found it kind of annoying to actually be digging in a bucket and then coming across these when I needed a plain one. And 2, if I was looking for a particular sticker or print, or needed something with, a cool embellishment to add into a build, it was very exhausting to actually dig through the whole bucket with a whole bunch of just, regular plain pieces in it. So I have these pulled out, and I have a separate little organization kind of drawer that I put all of these in. Now, surprisingly, these are actually few and far between. I thought that when I first started my little drawer that I would fill it up very quickly, but I haven't. Now, unfortunately, broken pieces do have to be retired. It makes me very sad. I put them in a bag. I have no idea exactly what to do with them. I really cringe at the idea of throwing them away, so I don't, but I'm not sure if there's a great way of recycling them. I need to look into that. So if you know of anything along that lines, please comment and let me know, because I do have kind of a rather large bag of broken pieces that need a second chance in some way. Now, for the most part, I have this size of Tupperware that most of the pieces go in, and it fits pretty well, but there is a ton of little bitty pieces like what I talked about earlier that don't need that big of a bucket at the moment. If I keep collecting, they're going to. My son put together this amazing rotating storage that I'm able to keep all of those smaller pieces in that don't necessarily need a huge bucket yet, because I haven't collected as many of those, and because they're smaller pieces, they don't take up as much space. And so I've organized them in such a way that I can easily kind of remember where they are. I've got basic pieces, I have decorative pieces, I have Technic pieces on one side, and then on the last side I have anything that a minifigure can hold or would be used, they would use, you know, a tool or, you know, a wheelbarrow or something like that. And so I can pretty quickly spin it around to find, you know, a narrow down to kind of what I'm looking for. But there are so many buckets in here that it has taken some serious memorization to be able to remember where they all are. And it is very terrifying when we move it around, because sometimes we have to take off each section to be able to move it around. And one time we actually had one of those tip over and all of the pieces got mixed up again, and I think I wanted to cry. So it's fine when it's perfectly safe on the structure, but it is terrifying if any of this gets messed up, because then you have to kind of resort it all back out. And if you do any sorting of your own, you know how long it takes to organize these little bitty pieces. So that's kind of how we sort here. We've spent years perfecting our little pattern of how we do things, but I would really love to hear how you sort, and if there's anything that you do different that could really help me out, because as time consuming as it is, and with as many things as I have to do otherwise in my life, I am always ready to hear a tip on how to make this process faster. But you know what? I like to turn a good movie on and just kind of enjoy the process, because otherwise it can actually get a little bit frustrating. Well, it's time for me to get back to sorting this lot so that I can have all of these amazing bricks to be able to build something fun and exciting that I can show you very soon.